Good morning, Ellen Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. Welcome to my little show here. I do it every morning, pretty much at 8:15. That was my goal coming into 2026. So for those of you watching, if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. If you think this might be helpful to somebody, just grab the link, pop it in text, DM to someone that you think it might help. Topic this morning is judging. So Olympics are over, and during the Olympics, we saw a lot of things. We saw cheering, jeering, booing, judging, and especially in the sports like aerials, some of the snowboard sports, and figure skating, there's subjectiveness to the judging. It's not like you're just crossing a finish line or winning a goal. So we saw some of that too. And we also saw something that I thought was interesting, not necessarily at the Olympics, but around the Olympics, and that was some name calling. So I wanted to talk this morning about a couple of things that I've noticed that over time, probably over the last 20 years in particular, um, there's some golden rule things that I don't think we're following anymore, mostly because we have these little things in our hands and we can leave anonymous comments or non-anonymous comments. And they're just flying around. All during the Olympics, they were just flying around. Um, all these pronouncements, judgments, and name calling things. For whatever reason, people can get real political. But I go back and think about raising our three sons in a really unique neighborhood. So here's our home. We had upper middle class, lower middle class, and extreme poverty, like all in the same corner. And we were like the neighborhood park. So every kind of kid played at my house. The drug dealers' kids played at my house. I mean, it was just everybody played at my house. And if you were to judge and think where they lived, you would probably be wrong based on their clothing or how they spoke. Um, we did not have a lot of rules for all these kids playing in our yard, but we did have one. It almost makes me cry. The rule was there's no name calling. There's no meanness. Name calling has a real aspect of meanness to it. When we started like having kids from the neighborhood in our yard, it started with one boy. He lived down the street. My eldest was 2 at the time, and this boy was 7. He used to ride by our house on this old bicycle, wearing just a little pair of shorts, summertime, back and forth, just past our house, back and forth, back and forth. One day we let him in, and we knew his parents, we knew his mom, and he had older sisters, so he was like kind of an older child because his sisters were so much older. He just wanted to play. He was so creative, he was so fun. He was also small for his age. And I found out one day when he said, Mrs. Ingalls, I call this the safe house. I thought that was kind of interesting. And I said, well, why do you call it that? And he goes, well, at school, everybody calls me names, but at your house, there's no name calling. And that's when I kind of thought, this is kind of a nice rule, right? If there's going to be a rule that we follow the golden rule. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. That little line, it was don't say nothing from all at all from Thumper in the movie Bambi. So that came up in my head. I'm like, yeah, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Um, that was kind of a rule I grew up with. And the other one was mind your own business. So I find it fascinating. I think the media stokes this, but what I see is that we seem to love to get into each other's business and provide advice, tell people like we think it should be, and it's just all over comments on posts. Um, and that was not something that happened like when I was a child. That you just didn't do that. You would be reprimanded for sticking your nose in somebody else's business, giving advice where it wasn't asked for. Um, I try. It's funny this is coming up, but I really try so hard when I'm coaching because I'm a coach, right? To create a space where I give suggestions. I reflect on things. I give suggestions, and I share what I know. But I'm never going to tell someone to do something a certain way. Like I'm not going to say if somebody's having a tough time in a relationship, like, oh, you should just leave them. That's not my business. Like that's not, I've seen other coaches do that. That's not for me to do. Um, it's to provide the tools to help people make great decisions. It's to provide the tools to help them elevate themselves, get out of the stress response so they can think clearly. So when I started thinking about that, I see my train of thoughts kind of going weaving around this morning. Bear with me. I believe there's a point here. I started to ask the question, when we give advice where it's not asked for, when we make judgments, when we name call, what's behind that? Like, let's lift up the hood and see what is really behind that. Are we making these pronouncements because these are things we see in ourselves that we're critical of, but we see it in somebody else and we feel we can just pronounce it out there? Um, do we feel attacked? So therefore we'll trigger the stress response and now we're going to make a pronouncement. I saw that during the Olympics for sure. Um, and the other thing that I saw during the Olympics is just not accepting whatever the judgment was, the actual judger's judgment, but having to attack it. All of it feeds to whether or not we feel attacked, we feel threatened, and so we need to do something. So I'm curious, first of all, that so many people seem to have time to make all these judgments on our devices, like make all these comments, make all these judgments rather than be working or living their life or taking care of their children or taking care of their parents, like doing life, right? Do we have a whole lot of people that are just not doing very much, so they have plenty of time to just comment on everything? Um, and in all of these comments, are they under the influence of the stress hormones or not? Like that's a question that I have. I don't have an answer, of course, to that. We need to test everybody. But but I feel like if you're not in that frame of mind, you wouldn't even think to grab your phone and make some pronouncement about someone that you've never met, don't know the circumstances. All you see is a media flash and it pings you. Um, yeah, so that's really what I have for you is just noticing that if judgments, name calling, um, anything around that, just seeing it can cause you to trigger the stress response. Um, or if you're doing some of it, like just take a step back and kind of look at it and say, okay, am I minding my own business? Am I living by the golden rule? Would I want this to come down on me? Really assessing that. I think taking a step back and asking ourselves these questions can, number one, help prevent the stress response, which is fantastic. And number two, help us just create a better society. I mean, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. That was drilled into me as a child because I'm sure I was just like, blah, right? It's something that's learned, but I think that some people have forgotten these tenets that help make us have a better society and have more cohesiveness, um, which I think is critically important. And it's not about us; it's about our future. It's about 7 generations. Oh, I'm always thinking not just 7 generations in the future, but also 7 generations in the past. Like, what's the through line? How are we making these connections? So I just wanted to bring forward those two things that were from my childhood, because I know I've gotten in major situations where I didn't follow them, where I said something that I never should have said. I was sticking my nose in where it didn't belong, making a pronouncement that I didn't have all the details. I didn't know all the facts before I was sharing something. So I'm going to check that and watch that myself. Um, but certainly, if you're a parent or grandparent, if you're raising children, just kind of noting, What messages are we sharing and giving them, and what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we still in middle school? That's what my younger clients will say that. It's like most grown-ups are in middle school, Mrs. Ingalls. They don't act like grown-ups. Something shifted in the counterculture. Something majorly shifted in the 70s. And taking that responsibility, like really being responsible and noting again judgment in any place in there. It's I really have to check myself. So I'm thinking maybe you do too. And note it and be clear. So yeah, to me, there's like the name calling is just not a nice thing. I mean, we say sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. I don't think that's true. I think that words can be extremely hurtful. Um, and yet it's us staying emotionally resilient to make sure that we don't let the words cause us to go under the line and trigger all this massive amount of stress hormones that are going to make us feel even more threatened. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you have a great pressure-free day. It is a Monday if you're watching live. And we had a big couple weeks of Olympics for those of you who follow the Olympics. I'm going to be a little sad now because I do love them. I just love seeing excellence in action, and we certainly saw that. A little Norwegian blood in me, so I was like all over the Norway skiing. It was just fantastic to watch. So I wish you a beautiful pressure-free day.